everyone, from 1Route, I'm Jeffrey Ross, and you're watching the 1Route Roundup, the show that spotlights individuals making a positive difference in the telecom industry. Today, we're joined by our own Kallie Calitz. He's a man of vast experience when it comes to security, and in the telecom industry, this is key. Previously, he was a security consultant for Sallyport Global, head of corporate security for Vodacom Mozambique, and a captain with the South African Police Service, which included being the officer on the close protection detail for former President Nelson Mandela. Kallie, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Good evening, Jeffrey. Thank you for the generous introduction.
So for our audience, I've got to ask, where in the world is Kallie today?
I'm way back in the north of Mozambique, close to the border with Tanzania, in the province of Cabo Delgado, small town called Palma, in the north, tucked away in the north of Mozambique. Not much around here, mostly bush and vast discoveries of oil and gas a couple of years ago. So there's big developments happening in this undeveloped area.
Well, I have to tell you, like we were speaking earlier, it's a beautiful backdrop. Obviously, it's getting into the evening hours for you. So again, thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. So
lovely, sons.
We'll get to it. Kallie, I've just got to know what I've found intriguing about people in general is their journey. And with your background, I'm curious, how did you get into the telecom industry?
Jeffrey, it was purely by chance. There was no planning, no scope. I was as you've mentioned, I've spent 12 years in the South African police. Never done normal police work. Always had the privilege to be in kind of like specialized units. And whilst working on the protection detail for Madiba, we obviously meet a lot of people and build a big network. And through this network, actually, a vacancy became available at Vodacom in Midrand. And I took the opportunity. And that's how I ended up in telecoms through a good network.
So South Africa to Mozambique, obviously Mozambique seems near and dear to your heart these days.
It's a beautiful country. I arrived here in 2003 with a 1-year contract that got extended another year, then another year, and then another 2 years. It went on like that for 12 years until Vodacom said, "Listen, man, it's time for you to go back to Joburg." I said, "No, man, I love it here. I want to stay."
Absolutely.
So,
and selfishly, we are glad that you did stay. You know, you're a vital part of the organization, and we appreciate your representation there. So out of curiosity, for those that have never been to Mozambique, is there a particular area that you love to visit the most?
So Mozambique offers basically a beautiful coastline, tropical coastline, and then also beautiful bush. I'm not so much of a sea person. I like the bush, unspoiled nature. So they have a bit of both. And magnificent beaches, 2,500 kilometer coastline, if just to put it in perspective. So it's a vastly undeveloped, spectacularly beautiful countries. Many places off the beaten track. And I guess that's what we South Africans like. You know, we like put the 4x4, engage 4x4, diff lock, and get off the tar road.
There you go. I like it. So with your security background and the experiences that you gained through the South African police, and then also with Vodacom, would you say that there are certain areas, or I should phrase the question, what are areas that you believe are key in the telecom industry in the form of security? Are there areas that are being overlooked, or are there areas that are spot on? What do you think?
Well, security is an industry that every corporate entity, every corporate company requires security, because you need to protect your assets, you need to protect your people, you need to protect your infrastructure and your intellectual property. So there's a thread of security going through each and every corporate company, regardless of what industry they are in. So yes, it's a very important component, and it's sometimes difficult for the security managers to convince their bosses that they need to spend more money on security, because it's usually where they cut the budget first.
No, it's very vital. So with that experience in what I would say physical security, what are your thoughts on security that are more on the network?
Yeah, privacy is the big thing these days. So loss of information protection, hackers that break into networks, into companies, servers, databases, access personal information, selling it, sharing it, publishing it. So hugely important for the network, for the IT guys, to have adequate security in place to prevent the bad guys snooping around, getting in there and causing damage. And then also, obviously, to prevent fraud. There's a lot of fraud, as you and I know, happening in the telecoms industry.
Mm-hmm.
And small margins, but the volumes are massive. So over a weekend, if they get into your system and they can tweak a couple of things, that you can get out of that weekend, wake up on Monday morning and you're a couple of $100,000 down.
It's a real-time, real-world issue. So Mozambique and well, it's Vodacom in general, but let's say Mozambique with the M-Pesa. A lot of parts in the world are not as familiar with mobile money, such as here in the States, they consider, let's say, PayPal or Google, Apple as a version of mobile money, but M-Pesa itself is what I would consider a true version of mobile money. How prevalent has that become in Mozambique?
So I remember vividly when we launched M-Pesa years ago. Initially, it was not well accepted by the people. People didn't trust it. It takes a long time in developing countries like ours for people to trust technology, because they're not. But once they got the hang of it, and once they experienced it, it just snowballed. And M-Pesa is doing phenomenally well, especially in Mozambique. And just to give you an idea, here where I am in Cabo Delgado province in the north, there are no banks here in Palma, Musimboa district. No bank, not one. Everybody relies on M-Pesa. It's the only banking system available to many people, is M-Pesa. So it plays a vital role to make people part of the economy and allow them to trade and run their businesses and pay salaries and pay for airtime, pay for data. There's a hell of a lot with M-Pesa.
I was about to say, and there alone, we can get back to security. Now you're dealing with, obviously in telecom, there's losses incurred, but when it comes to fraud, however, with mobile money, now you're dealing with fraud and losses with people's, for lack of better words, actual money, right? And so the need for security with mobile money seems even more prevalent. Would you agree? Or
yes, being part of the Vodacom security team for over a decade, there's a tremendous amount of fraud being conducted. in fraudsters inside banks colluding with telecom operators, where you have to send a PIN to a SMS to a phone to verify the PIN code that was sent. There's a lot of collusion between fraudsters. They normally operate in syndicates in banks and telcos. So there's a lot of ingenuity when it comes to fraudsters thinking and planning on what they're going to do next, because you always got to think one step ahead, because I think many guys used to just play catch up. Okay, let's plug this hole, and then a new one opens. Okay, let's plug this hole. So you gotta that's why the development teams consider fraud before they launch even a new product. How can this product be exploited? What can we do to prevent fraud when we launch this new offer?
So that's one thing that we want to do with this video series, was really kind of get the perspective of other areas of the world. So I find it fascinating.
It's about how respond, yeah.
Say that again.
Yeah, how fast you can respond.
Yeah.
So you've got in place. How long does it take you to act and to stop the gaps? Yeah, the guys in Africa, I think, are pretty up to speed. Those companies who do not invest and who do not invest in their fraud teams, in training and in systems, they'll feel it on the bottom line.
One thing I would say about Mozambique that I think a lot of people don't give enough credit to. I believe Mozambique really has a cutting edge technology and network as far as communications go. In correlation to, like, here in the US, in rural areas, there are still areas that have zero reception, much less 2G, 3G connectivity. So from your time in South Africa to your time in Mozambique, what's your opinion on kind of the difference in the way the networks are, the connectivity? Is Mozambique as great as I'm making it sound?
It's even better, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I love it.
It wouldn't be fair for me to comment on that, because I basically just spent a couple of months in SA with Vodacom before I moved to Mozambique. So I don't really have an insight into the SA network. Unfortunately.
I failed to mention in the introduction, and I would love for our audience to know, you are quite the avid mountain biking person. Kallie has completed, I believe, how many Cape Epics have you completed now? Was it
three finishers?
3.
And one did not finish, almost.
For those that don't know, I was supposed to say, for those that don't know, the Cape Epic is like the Iron Man of mountain biking, except it's over days instead of hours, correct?
8 days.
8 days. So now the question lies.
The race that me and you were, Jeffrey.
I still need to. Yeah, I need to get on a plane and get a mountain bike. I had a bad crash of actually about, I'm trying to think, back last September, and it was just a foolish mistake that I used my front brake at the wrong time and squeezed way too hard and right over the handlebars, man. It was a bad. So I'm just now, all these months later, I'm just now getting back into riding again. So nowhere near in shape for the Cape Epic, but
no, we'll. That's not a fun ride. It's a punishing ride. The Cape Epic. I'd recommend something way more relaxing, like the Tour de Tule, which is coming up shortly. 3 days of mountain bike safaring, as they call it, in a big 5. game
Wow.
reserve.
We need to do this. We need to do it properly. Okay, Kallie, one last thing. So one thing that we've noticed over the years, and I think you would agree to this, through doing interviews, through attending conferences or just lunches or whatever it might be, you really don't get to know the individual you're speaking with in just a short amount of time. So the great scientists at what's called the Late Show with Stephen Colbert created a questionnaire of 15 questions that they believe can tell an audience who you are as a person. Now, our scientists in the 1Route labs have tweaked that questionnaire just a little bit, but there's 15 questions, and by the end, we will know who Kallie is. Are you ready to take this questionnaire?
Shoot.
All right. Kallie, what is the best sandwich?
Ham and cheese.
Like it. Straight and to the point. It's a classic. So what is one thing that you own that you really should throw out?
That's a good one. That I own that I should throw out. Yes. My spear gun.
Huh?
Spear fishing.
There you go. I would say my running shoes. Oh, Kallie, now I'm very intrigued by this next one for you. What is the scariest animal?
A spider.
Huh?
Spider.
Spiders in general.
Okay. A spider is not an animal. Man, should I?
You know what though? We can count the spider as they creep me out as well. So apples or oranges?
Apples.
That's correct. You know why? Because you can put peanut butter on an apple.
Not my personal preference.
Can't put peanut butter on an orange.
Yeah, definitely not.
Kallie, have you ever asked someone for their autograph?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
Did you get
My
it?
son, we were actually at Joburg International Airport, flying somewhere, I can't remember, Cape Town, and the Springbok rugby team were having breakfast at the same restaurant as us. And I went up to one of the big locks with my son and I said, Peter Steph de Toy, please can you sign this for my son? Yeah, so I did.
That's fantastic. What is your favorite action movie?
Yeah, Young Guns 2.
Oh, now you're getting into my neck of the woods. What is your favorite smell?
Vanilla.
That's a good one. So on the other end, what is your least favorite smell?
Fish.
So do you remember what the first mobile phone you owned was?
It must have been a Nokia 3210, 3310, 3210.
Was that when Nokia was coming down in size, or was it one of those larger ones that could split open? Or
yeah, it was one of those larger. No, I think it's when they came down in size. Yeah.
Wow. That's going back a way. And you know, Kallie, I miss the physical buttons personally.
I used to enjoy the pager I used to own back in the day. And you'd get a page, come to the office. Days, man.
I like it. Do you prefer flat or sparkling?
Are you talking about wine?
Water.
Water.
Or wine. I guess you could go with that.
Flat, normal.
Flat. What do you prefer, coffee or tea?
Coffee. Good grounded coffee.
What is the most used app on your phone?
Probably WhatsApp.
You get one song to listen to for the rest of your life. What would it be?
Must be U2. U2. Still haven't found what I'm looking for.
That's a classic. What number am I thinking of?
7.
No.
Okay.
Now then, describe the rest of your life in 5 words.
Let's see where this ends. Let's see where this ends.
Well done, Kallie.
Oh.
You are now known to the whoever's watching this video. You are known. All that's left to do is to roll out the red carpet. Kallie, look into the camera and tell us what's on the horizon for you.
You know, I'm not one of those guys that plan things long in advance ahead, book my holiday for next year. I take it one step at a time. I live one day at a time.
To the fullest. Carpe diem.
What lies ahead, I don't know. But I'm giving it my all every day here where I am.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you again so much for taking the time to speak with us today. To the audience, we hope you like it. Make sure to subscribe to keep up with everything. And we look forward to the next episode. Kallie, take care.
Thank you, Jeffy. Have a good evening.